Okay, Melvin, if you could unmute yourself. Hi, Melvin. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much for being on today. Could you tell our group a little bit about a little brief synopsis about yourself? I'm going to ask you
Okay.
follow-up questions in addition to that.
Okay. Like you said earlier, my name is Melvin Negron. Currently a CEO of Gangsters Gone Godly and of TV host of my own show and CEO of that organization, G3 TV, which stands for One Gathering, Two Guide, Three Generations. Um, I'm a former Latin King leader, former prisoner, ex-con, but now a man of God, if anything.
Okay. Can you tell us how your childhood impacted your experience with joining the gang?
It played a very big part. I the way I grew up in a lot of fear in the home. I came from a very abusive home. My mother's boyfriend was very abusive towards not just my mother and my sister, but as well as myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually. Um, so living in fear was a very big part of who I was as a child. Plus, the area where I lived in um, is a very like high drug and crime area. So I grew up just seeing that all the time. Um, a lot of it played a big part because I would always see inside the house, I was scared. Outside of the house with the guys in the corner, the guys that, were out there hustling, the older guys, you know, um, they had a tendency to always want to look out for the younger kids in the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? Whether it was for the right reasons or just because they wanted to be, looked up to and eventually, recruit, you could say. For someone that came from the home that I came from, we tend to look for at those guys as the only male role models we had, not to take anything away from my mother or my father because I love them both to death, but they were dealing with their own things at that time. My mother and my father were separated. Like I said, my mother had a boyfriend that lived with us, and then my father, he wasn't in the picture as much. You know, he would only come around for like birthdays and holidays and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Um, when it comes to outreach and what is the technique you use to reach it, to get those people to come from the other side, from choosing a life of criminality?
Okay, so basically, my biggest thing is being able to relate to what they, are going through. You know, when I hit the streets, or if I'm at a school, or even in a juvenile facility, I try to listen to them to see where they're coming from, see what they, had to deal with, or what they're currently dealing with, at home. The older guys that are in the, adults, just asking them questions and being able to relate with them and always keeping it 100%, like being totally honest with them because like there's a saying on the streets, it's real recognize real. And if you go and you try to portray something that you're not, or try to act like something that you didn't do, or you can't understand where they came from, they they push you away real quick. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have, they don't trust you. Trust is a very big part because that's a lot of what these guys, men and women that are in that lifestyle, they don't trust anything. They can't trust if they can't trust what's in the home, how are they going to trust with someone that's just coming to say, I'm here to help you? You know, my own mother, my own father, my own brothers and sisters, I can't even trust them. So I don't know you from a can of paint. So how can I trust you?
Thank you. When you first started your organization, did you get any pushback from city officials or trust from people in the community that you harmed?
Definitely. And even sometimes still now, I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've had great relations with county prosecutors, Department of Corrections, Juvenile Justice Commission. But right in my own town locally, yeah, there's you know, mayors, different city officials that still tend to believe, police officers especially, uh, that this is a facade. That I you have to understand, I've been getting in trouble since I was 11 years old. I'm 47 years old now, and I've only been doing this for going on 4 years. So in their eyes, how did he change? Did he really change? Because I'm not the typical outreach person, I guess. I don't have all the degrees. I don't have, you know, I didn't go through a whole long process of rehabilitation in their eyes, and basically because they don't see it, they only see what they want to see. It's hard for them to give someone like me a chance, and so they tend to fall back. Like I do a lot of outreach events. One of the biggest ones I do is called Celebration of Life. Getting permits in my own city, is like one of the hardest things, and it's not because of anything else that's going on, or because of in what we're dealing with now with COVID. It's just, well, who else is involved? Who are you using? Who are you connecting with? Nobody. I do this for the community. Those are my connections, the people on the streets. The whole point of my events that I do are to, for the community, are for the youth, for people who lost someone to the streets, whether it was through gang violence or drug addiction, things like that. So, you know, I don't I don't want, it's not that I don't want the help or don't look for it, but I'm the type of person that I've always been a go-getter. So if you tell me that, I can do this or I can't do this, I'm going to try and make it happen no matter which way you look at it. I won't go against the law. If they really wanted to shut me down, then of course that's not the person I am. So I won't go against them. But I've been blessed so far not to have to be completely shut down. COVID really is a test right now, but for whatever reason, some people are supporting. Some people are getting in the ears of the right people and saying, look, this guy's doing, he's making a difference where no one else is. He's actually in the projects, on the streets, in the jails. Um, you know, when the gangs are going to war, I'm right there in the middle between the two, or if someone dies from a drug overdose, I'm right there on the scene, like, trying to, I guess, be a mediator, so.
What would be your one? Because I've worked in reentry for like 7 years, and I've noticed that a lot of employers tend to use that labeling theory that we talk about in our criminal justice classes. Like they label you, you're this ex-felon for the rest of your life. What would you say to an employer that wanted to hire somebody that was previously incarcerated?
um it's funny that you asked that, because that's what I dealt with when I came home myself. um I couldn't get a job to save my life, and that was part of the stipulation when I came home. So there was a point where I wanted to give up. There was 7 months after being home, the only jobs that I could take were through temp services, and because of my felony convictions, and mind you, my felony convictions are drug related. Don't have a violent crime. Regardless of being the leader of the Latin Kings, regardless of being in prison for all these years, everything I was incarcerated was for drugs. But drug dealers seem to be a lot worse than anyone else. So when it came down to trying to get a job, for myself, it was hard. And then I started to realize, like, you have to understand where the employer is coming from. You actually have to, you know, at least make it to the interview. Once you make it to the interview, let them see who you are. Um, we were able, as street kids, as gang members, as drug dealers, as drug addicts, we were able to get the things we wanted when we were out there doing those things. And it was because we were able to speak. So now we got a tendency that, oh, because it's a job interview, oh, well, you don't want to open your mouth. No, you can't do that. If you have the education, if you have the drive to succeed, and you're not a quitter, you really want to try and make this change, let them know that. Let them see that. Let them know that there's other things you can get bonded, things like that, but let them see your personality. Your personality is what really matters. Yeah, you're gonna get shot down, but like they say, for every door that closes, another door is gonna open up. You know, me personally, I had to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. You know, but I had my brother. I had support from people. You know, that were close to me that would not let me give up on myself because I did want to give up, you know. So just, be able to speak, talk, show them who you really are, not who you were.
And do you think taking accountability is one of those first steps?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely. Um, and it's the same thing when you're trying to come, out from the prison system. A lot of people, well, when you go before parole boards, when you go before, even judge, like me personally, I had a 10-year sentence and I was released from prison after 10 months, but I had to go before a panel of judges and speak to them. And that's what they were looking for, being accountable for the things I've done in the past, not making excuses for the things I've done in the past, because we got a tendency, I'm gonna, be totally honest. We got a tendency to point fingers at everybody else. Say, oh, it was because of this, the system. It was because of the way I grew up. It was because of, you know, I didn't have my mother. I didn't have my father. It was because of the neighborhood, things like that. But it's like I tell everybody, and it's an old cliche, but I learned it a long time ago. Every time you point the finger at somebody else, you got three fingers pointing back at yourself. Remember that. You know, think about it. You made a choice. You knew right from wrong. We all know right from wrong. We have a discernment to know these things. So at the end of the day, you chose this route. Now just own up to it. Trust me, if you own up to it, people will see that and they'll respect it even more. In my job per se, I have a lot of guys that are ex-felons working in there. And it's because one, the company I work for is amazing, but they actually look at that right in the interview. The HR department, that was what they were looking for. Own up to, your responsibility, because it's going to come in the job itself. There's going to be a time where something happens in the job, paperwork not filed right, a misship, anything, because I work in the trucking industry. Instead of pointing the finger and saying, oh, it was because of this person or that person, I couldn't do the job correctly. If you played a part, any part, just admit it. Just say, look, I did it. I'm, I need to be trained on this specific part, and we'll move forward from there. And they love that. And I personally love it, So at the end of the day, just owning up to your mistakes and the choices you've made definitely is an important factor.
Thank you. Okay. What advice would
Melvin,
you give students that wanted to work in reentry? What advice would you give criminal justice students that wanted to help people transitioning back home or working in a criminal justice field with these vulnerable populations? What advice would you give them?
Um, don't be quick to judge or assume things. Really listen. I mean, everything starts, with a root, with a foundation. Um, a lot, like I said, a lot of these guys, men and women both, um, they've made, you don't know where they came from, you don't know their story. Um, just listen to them. People look at me, they see a teardrop on my face, they see a crown on my neck, they see tattoos all over my body, on my hands, and they're quick to assume, they're quick to judge you. But how can you judge me and you don't know me? It, without even knowing me, you forget the fact that I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. Without even knowing me, I've taken culinary arts. Like, you're just looking at the outside. So my biggest suggestion is just pay attention, listen. For the ones that want to be um, take this serious, why? Ask why. You know, um, I always ask everybody that I mentor. Oh, I want to do what you do. I want to be able to talk to. I have a story to tell. I have a testimony to say. Okay, that's great. I'm not definitely won't knock you for it, but why? Is it really a passion, or is it because you think this is something glamorous and you think this is cool? You know, because you have to have a passion. I tell everybody, outreach and any type of what I do, ministry outreach, it's within your heart. Like, you really have to have that passion. It's the same way that if you want to be a nurse, you have to have the passion to take care of the patients. If you want to be a doctor, things like that, make sure it's within inside of you, and it's something that you really want, because then in the long run, it can make a real big difference.
Okay, thank you. Miss Jacqueline Mason has a question.
Sure.
Hi, Melvin. Thank you so much for joining us. As Naisha
Thank
mentioned at
you.
the beginning of the program, I'm the director of the criminal justice program in Bryn Mawr. I've been lucky enough to work with Naisha for the past couple years, so I'm thrilled that you're kicking off this series for us. And I love our partnership and working together. And thank you for doing this for our students and the community.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah, my question for you is, was there a specific moment, person, or turning point in your life? Or was it just maybe many different events or many different things that happened in your life that led you to take a different path?
Yeah, that's a very excellent question. So I'm actually working on a second book right now, and it's called Pieces to the Puzzle. Um, and there are like little pieces, different things that happen in my life. But I guess the biggest turning point, I have a little brother that passed away. His name was Kevin. He was 7 years younger than me. We grew up very tight. In my family, all my brothers and sisters were real close. And when my brother died, he died of an overdose, and it really tore me apart because we weren't close at that time. You know, I was living street life, and I had done things to hurt him, and I our last words to each other weren't really nice to each other. We had a lot of animosity towards each other, and I never got a chance to resolve that. So when he passed away in 2007, he passed away the day after my birthday. So it literally like played a big, took a big toll on my life. Um, it didn't make me stop everything, but it made me walk away from the Latin Kings the following year, because he left 4 children behind, a daughter and 3 sons, and I have kids of my own. I didn't want to see his sons, because their father was gone and they were babies. I didn't want to see his sons follow in his footsteps or any of our footsteps that we had. So basically, I tried to stop some things, but it didn't happen immediately. But I guess that is the biggest reason for turning everything around.
Thank you so much. There was a
Mhm.
question in the chat. What's the title of your first book?
Homies para Homies para Cristo, where basically it's Homies for Christ. It's a collaboration of 4 different gang members from all over the country, from the Mexican Mafia, Houstonians, MS-13, and of course myself, a former Latin King. Men who just, enough was enough, and we were just wanted to go ahead and change our lives, and we each do some type of ministry as well now. One's a pastor, the other one's, an evangelist, things like that. And then, of course, myself with the evangelism and outreach.
And the next question is it available as an ebook?
No, because I didn't do any of the publishing or anything. One of the guys did, so I don't think we have it in ebook. We do have it available. Anyone can just hit me up.
Okay.
To hear anything, and I give the books away for free. My whole thing is I'm not here to gain profit off of anything. I'm just here to bring light to dark places.
And was religion a part of your youth and growing up, and just maybe something that didn't have as prominent a role, or was that something that really became a part of your life when you decided to take a different path, when you decided you were ready to make a change in your life?
Wow. Yeah, I went to Catholic school as a little kid when for like kindergarten and first grade. Um, I had an animosity towards anything religious, because I felt like what was going on in the home, if there was really a God, like how could he go ahead and allow what's going on in my house to happen to me? So definitely, I didn't have a relationship with God. Um, and so growing up, no, it was there. I knew it. In fact, I tell everyone part of my story was that I really looked as God and Jesus as my enemy. So at 11 years old, I was given the book to read, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and the 3rd chapter, of course, is Know Your Enemy. And I really believed he was my enemy, so I knew about him. I just didn't have a relationship with him. So when I got older, um, I was introduced to him, inside solitary confinement in prison. I gave up the fight and I dropped to my knees and asked him, whatever happens from this point on, this is where my life is. I'm with you now. I'm tired of fighting you. And since then, he's, been my through my story, my life. Without him, I am not who I am today.
Thank you so much.
Melvin, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm a child of a parent that was incarcerated. I wanted to know how your connection was with your children before you went to prison and while you were in prison, and when you left prison. How did that go?
Surprisingly, the relationship I have with my kids now is truly amazing because I have 2 children that are biologically mine, is my daughter and my son. But I have 3 other children that I was just there. I kind of raised them, if you want to say, even though I was in that life. I was a part of their lives. And my oldest daughter, she was a witness to everything. She was a witness to prison. She was a witness to the drugs. She was a witness to the gangs. I literally brought her to the trap houses. I did things in front of her that no father should let any child, let alone their own, see the violence, the anything like that. I watched her grow up from visits on the weekends inside the prisons. But she plays a part in my ministry as well. She helps me out setting events up and things like that. We have a great relationship. In fact, it was the most amazing part is that they look at me and they understood that I was going through some things, I guess, because I always was honest with them. I never hid. Well, I, a lot of the parents, a lot of the fathers that I knew, when you would hear them in prison, like, where do your kids think you're at? Where does your daughter think? Oh, I'm at school, or I'm working somewhere. And when she comes to visit you, oh, that's another excuse. No, I was bad. I made the wrong choices. This is my punishment. But I'll be home soon. And like, almost every father made promises that I'm gonna come home and do the right thing. And I didn't. I came home and did the same exact thing. Right back to hustling, right back to getting high, right back to banging. And then as I got older, they have the most amazing mothers, and I truly give their mothers all the respect and um so-called the props, because my their mothers did a great job raising them on their own. My daughter's married, has 3 children of her own, married a military wife. She has a career as well. My son, he's truly amazing. I mean, is what I always say that they could have easily went with the reputation that myself, my family, the last name in the neighborhood, the city we grew up in, they could have took it to the streets and said, oh, I could use that. My father was a Latin king. My father was a gang member. My son was doing a home interview for corrections, because he wants to be a correction officer. Who would have ever thought? And they asked him, do you have anybody in your family that's ever been incarcerated or a gang member? And right in the middle of the interview, he calls me and says to me, Dad, what am I going to say? No, tell them the truth. Yes. Be straightforward with them. I made the choices I made. I chose the life that I chose. But at the end of the day, it's your life now. This is your life. You made the choice to do the right things, and you're making the choices to do the right things. So, we have great relationships, and it's a big part of it is because of their mother. Both their mothers are super. I can't say enough about them.
Wow. Jacqueline, do you have any questions?
I don't have any further questions for now, but I would like to open it up, if we could, to the members of the audience. We've got educators, we have administrators, we have some community members, and also students who have been attending this evening. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you just want to ask them, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as well. Everybody's quiet this evening.
Well, one of the students.
I have a question.
Okay.
My name is Shannon, and I am a criminal justice student. Melvin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had your name right. It's been a long day.
That's okay.
I actually used to work with at-risk kids in Georgia, and that actually jump-started me wanting to get in the criminal justice field. And just sitting here and hearing your story, I got goose pimples, and it just took me back to working at Devereaux in Georgia. And the biggest thing that I took away from Devereaux is I learned a lot from the girls that I worked with. Like you're saying, when we hit the floor and we got, a brief description of their life, and they had some really hard lives. It was hard at first not to judge until you actually sat down and talked to the girls, and they were girly girls when you got to be with them one-on-one and to talk to them. And it was so heartwarming to know that there was girls that got discharged and they called back and specifically, asked for me or asked for other staff and, thanked us. They were a handful when they were there, but when they left, they called back and thanked us for the lessons that they learned from us and us giving them the tough love. Um, so thank you for everything that you have done. Um, I didn't get a chance to hear everything in the beginning. I only logged in like 20 minutes ago. But just hearing what little bit that you said, it's definitely encouraging. And I'm looking forward to going back working with at-risk kids.
Definitely. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is, like I said, listening to them, because I know from my own personal experience, you know, none of these, I don't care who it is, you're not born bad. You're not born a gang member. You're not born a drug addict. These are things that you learn. These are things that, might have been taught in the home, or just the fact that because things weren't taught in the home, that you tend to admire the things on the streets, and I mean, who, what kid that grew up in a terrible home environment won't look out to the corner and see the guy standing on the corner driving, the BMWs, Mercedes, have the big gold chains on, pulling out pockets full of money and living this lavish life, when in all reality, it's a facade. They might even themselves be just covering what they're going through inside. So every time I've talked to a kid, it takes me back to the memories that I had growing up. It takes me back to the things. I wasn't that bad of a kid. I just made a lot of bad choices, a lot of bad decisions. And again, they were my choices. They were things that I chose to do. I knew right from wrong, but I chose, what, let me go ahead and do these things, because I didn't want to deal. I didn't want to deal with certain things. I didn't want to I didn't want things to be a reality. Um my life was definitely it was definitely not the prettiest thing, but it was, I guess I tried to make everything fake. Let's put it that way. My life had to be a complete facade, you know. And the gangs were the best place to hide everything, because you wanted to take whatever anger was inside of you, or in my case, it was fear, and I didn't want people to see the fear, so I showed anger in place of it, you know.
So
I
we have,
noticed that a lot about the girls that they hid behind, fear and anger and, disappointment. And it just was so surprising to see how talented a lot of the girls were when you were able to get them on a one-on-one basis.
Mm, definitely.
so we have a person that wants to know, like, what were your success with working with the police in the community? Like, what were your success projects?
Um, amazingly, surprisingly, especially with all the damage I caused in this area, I had several police officers, correction officers help me establish the Celebration of Life event, which now is on its fourth year. And it was because Celebration of Life was, like, again, birthed out of the tragedy of the loss of both my brothers. I had two brothers that passed away to the streets, and my second one passed in 2000 just in 2018, I want to say. um but because of what happened with them, I was able to create this event, and a lot of the officers, like I said, correction officers, police officers, play a part in being security, wanting to just do things to help us out. And that turned out to be even greater, because now what started off in just Vineland, New Jersey, We've touched down in several different states throughout the country, and we have several more states this coming year. Even with COVID, these events are still happening, and the police are involved because they know what I'm trying to do. They know that they know that I'm not hurting anyone. I'm actually trying to bring life back to a community.
And we have,
There, go ahead.
sorry, I'm sorry, Jay.
No,
No.
no, that's okay. I was going to say we've got some great questions in the chat. So the next one that's here is, I think these are a little related. If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? And then the same student asks, if you had a chance, would you go back in time and fix your, if you had a chance to go back in time and fix your past, would you, and why or why not?
Okay. So if I had 3 wishes, I don't really believe in wishes. I'm a man of God, so
Right. You don't have the genie in the bottle.
right, nah, I put everything in prayer. But if I had 3 wishes, definitely one, COVID would be gone. Yeah, COVID would definitely be gone. And never really thought it. I mean, just being able to see addiction addiction, like any type of addiction, but drug addiction is definitely something that I wish and I pray every day that people just can walk away from it, find healing, in whatever way they need to, but definitely find healing for it. But other than that, that'd probably be the only 2 things. I don't really. I've had it, not for nothing. I've had as bad as my life may have seemed. Like I said, the second book, Pieces to the Puzzle, it's been a great life because it showed me a lot. So I guess that would be part of my second answer. To the second question, would I change anything? As crazy as it sounds, no, not one thing. I literally had to go through everything that I went through to get to the point where I'm at today. And there was a plan and a purpose for it, to be able to go ahead and be that light for other people that are going through it. So I truly believe that I'm blessed to be able to speak on certain topics, through experience, through understanding for people. So no, definitely won't change not one thing.
Thank you.
I had a
There's
quick
another question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Jacqueline and Nashia for putting this together. You work, I'm sure, with a lot of people who aren't so interested, I'll put it that way, in hearing your perspective or wanting to take your advice. So I was curious if you had any advice for people who are working, whether it be with someone coming out of the criminal justice system or someone who is, even working with a recalcitrant coworker or something. Like, how do you build that bond with them when they're not as interested in hearing what you have to say to start?
Again, I believe my personality, that I just don't come up to people and say, yo, I was an ex-gang member. I definitely am not gonna sit there. I work with vice presidents of my company.
So I should scratch that one off the list then. That's not the...
Yeah, definitely
okay.
not.
All right, good.
But I, the people that I deal with, I could tell even them on just by looking at me, sometimes can be a little judgmental. So I won't lead off with that. That's definitely not it. But my personality speaks for itself. Like I said, being the leader of the Latin Kings, and I was the leader in 5 different states. I literally, the state of Ohio took 3 guys, and within a matter of months, recruited 150 guys. So there was a reason behind it. It wasn't just to be a gang member. It was because I had the gift of gab, you could say. So I was able to talk to people. I was able to relate to people. I was able to understand people. So then, when they seen, oh, well, I could talk to him. I'm comfortable talking to him. Let me just go ahead and ask him some questions now, because curiosity, like they say, killed the cat. Well, a lot of them, I'm not going to kill nobody. So you could ask me, we'll talk. And then it becomes intriguing. It just becomes interesting. And the fact that, like I said, I'm very transparent. I don't, my life, like I said, was had a big facade to it growing up that today I can't be that person. One, my spirituality won't let me do it, but two, uh, you never know who you're talking to, and maybe they can relate, or they have a family member that can, that's someone in their family that they're trying to reach. So we'll talk, and then it becomes them asking questions. Then they want to know a little bit more, and we go forth from there. It's crazy because when I came home from prison, I was still on in New Jersey. We have what's called intense supervised parole, a program, and I walked out of the same prison while on that probation or parole program. And within less than a year, I walked back into that same prison, but this time through the front door, and became a speaker just because of what I was doing in the community, and it's still on parole, which is completely unheard of. No one, and I mean absolutely no one in the state of New Jersey, I don't know anywhere else, but has ever done that. And it was because the Department of Corrections, the head of the Department of Corrections, seen something in me beyond the gang member, beyond the 5-time convicted felon, beyond, serving 28 years. He's seen a man that, really wants to help.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a couple other questions that are in the chat here. I'm just gonna run through them so that we have time to touch on everyone. When did you get your degree, and what was your motivation for obtaining your degree? And then the question is, what do you have planned next for Gangsters Gone Godly?
Okay. Degree as in for the computer science?
I think so. But Juanita, if you wanted to clarify, feel free. But
I mean, I
I
can
think
give
that must be.
Okay, so the degree, I'll be honest with you, I got it while I was in prison. It was a program that they offered inside the prison, and I wanted to get out of my unit. So I was, like I said, I'm very transparent. I graduated high school. I wasn't the gang member or the felon that didn't have an education behind him. So I just felt like, I'm not working in the prison system for $1.65 a day. I need to be a paraprofessional or something, it doesn't pay much more, but that was my main reasoning behind it. And computers seemed to be where everything was heading. So
Well, you were certainly right about that. I mean,
yeah,
look where we are today.
exactly. What was the second question?
So, and then the second one was, what do you have planned next for Gangsters Gone Godly?
Again, because of my spirituality, it's whatever God leads me.
Mhm.
I truly don't have a set plan. Again, I just want to be, a beacon of light. I want to be a beacon of hope for people. I want people to see that, it doesn't matter where you came from, what you've been through, or, how bad your life may have seemed. You'll always have a chance. You always have that opportunity to make a second chance to do things better. As far as plans, I've been given so much since coming home that honestly, I just want to be able to spread the message a lot further.
Great.
I have one for you, Melvin. Hi, I'm Diane Rice. I'm a faculty member here at Harcum. I'm an adjunct in criminal justice in the partnership program. I had to clarify that. So my question for you is, what if you can make recommendations to a state or a county to help people re-enter the community, what would that be? Because I know it's like, here's your stuff, see ya. So what recommendations would you make to help people re-enter the community more successfully?
Okay, so I was part of a program inside Southwood State Prison before I was relieved. It was called the STARS program. It was a reentry program. Um, that was probably one of the best programs that I was a part of, and that was absolutely work. Being able to not just point fingers and show them, okay, you have this opportunity, you have that opportunity, you can go do this, you can go to this office. Because when I came home from prison, they gave me a paper, and on that piece of paper I had a list of all places that I can go to get employment, all places that I can go to get help, for assistance. No, you actually, not for nothing, I hate to say it, but some of these guys, you have to actually hold their hand. So, and I definitely, this is not me trying to gain anything, but connect with the outreaches, because there's plenty. Gangsters Gone Godly is one of many outreaches just in my city alone, one of many reentry programs. Mine is more based on faith, but that's not the only thing it's based on. It's really to help people. It's really to help, get you back into society. So if I actually take the time out and help people with the resume, I'll do my interviews with people. I actually reach out to companies that I know are willing to give the opportunity to someone who is an ex-felon, talk to them and say, this guy came home, this is what he did, we're being honest here, just hear him out, give him that opportunity, and I become a reference in certain cases. But work with different outreaches. If you're a state facility or a federal facility, find those local outreaches in that community, work with them, because what the programs inside the jail are great, but once they come home, now reality sets in.
Right.
Now it's really touchdown. Like, you got no choice. Okay, now you don't have a roof over your head. You don't have 3 meals that are given to you. You don't have these things. These guys are used to, oh, a cup of soup and I can get a haircut. No, $25 and you're going to get a haircut now. Oh, well, where am I going to get the $25 if I'm only making this through a temp service and I got to do this? All right, so let's go ahead, because it's quick to say, you know what, I throw my hands up, I'm going back to that life. I can make more money in an hour hustling than I can do this, or I can go steal and then flip and do, no. So, work with these outreaches. I mean, like I said, in my city alone, violent is not, Newark or Camden, these major metropolitan cities, but we have a lot of different facilities out here, a lot of different outreaches, a lot of different places that, could work with. And not everything is always about money. I mean, some people do it just to do it. Funding does get taken away. A lot of grants are always there and you never hear about them. And then when you do hear about them, you got a time limit to fill the paperwork out. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, that funding is going to go to something else. So
So Melvin, we talk about in our classes the school to prison pipeline. Right now, we don't hear anything about it because, everything with COVID and everything's remote now. What are your thoughts from the school to prison pipeline with the kids?
can you just elaborate a little bit more?
A lot of times now they have metal detectors in all of the high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and they're having school officers, like police officers, basically policing the students and treating them as if they're in a correctional facility. And then what happens is these kids in most cases, some of the kids that don't have the ideal behavior, they end up dropping out of school. They end up going to that criminal lifestyle.
Mhm. So, I mean, right there, that says it all. Like, if you're gonna treat someone like an animal, yeah, they're gonna act like an animal. If you're gonna treat them like as a prisoner, they're gonna act like a prisoner. If you're acting like a security guard, that's what they're gonna think. You know, I'm a firm believer on the the policing anyone. I don't do it at my own job. You know, I work with people. I work together with you as a someone who's in a leader position. I'm not your boss. I'm your leader. And to me, there's a difference. You know, a boss is going to point and tell you what to do. A leader is actually going to do the same thing with you that you do. So when you come to us, when it comes to schools and things like that, I get it. You have to be able to you want to protect people. But when you start having cops walking around the school because the school had a reputation for some fights or for drugs or violence, then utilize everything, not just the police. Bring more people to come and speak. Get more involved with people that, again, are in the community that are trying to do the right thing. You know, and I know I'm speaking on this format, but at the end of the day, like, please just don't always try to be so politically, oh, we can't do this or we can't do that. You know, sometimes, all right, well, let's take it there. You know, you want to cross the line for everything else. Well, let's cross this line. Let's have this guy who, you know, I'll be honest, and I'll speak on in my city. I was denied going into my own high school to go speak, but I spoke in the Board of Education didn't deny me for middle schools or anywhere else. In my high school, they denied me because they said they didn't have a drug or gang problem. But one of the kids that I, you know, was working with, I think 2 weeks after I got denied, got arrested for having a gun in his locker. You know, so I went to the superintendent, spoke to him, and I said, if there isn't a problem, why am I only speaking at the alternative school? Why am I speaking at middle schools? In middle school and elementary, they have a drug and gang problem, and all of a sudden you hit ninth grade and it disappears. But you allow, you know, other people to come in and speak because this is the new, you know, thing to speak on certain other topics who I won't go into right now. But I get it, you know, it happens, but you need to really stop covering your eyes. You know, you need to really stop trying to say, oh no, we're fine in that department. You know, nah, sorry. It's not happening.
Does anybody?
Yeah, I have a question for Melvin. I wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Joseph Coombs. I'm a student at Bucks County Community College for criminal justice right now. I just want to say, like, first off, I'm very moved by your story. I grew up in a very similar situation with like fear in the household with my stepfather and my mom, and I saw a lot of things I don't think anybody should see, to be quite fair. But I'm currently pursuing a career in law enforcement. So I just wanted to ask you for like any advice as some like in working as like law enforcement to be able to like help out and reach people like in a similar situation to you, because my whole motivation for like pursuing law enforcement is because I grew up in like the type of life with like domestic violence. I want to be like that resource to help other people go to schools, help other people, and like get out of that and be like, hey, you can be better than this. Like, what do you have any advice for people like me?
Yeah, definitely. And I said it's something similar to that earlier. Building a relationship with the area that you're going to be in, with the community, with the kids. Be 100% honest with them. You know, I'm not telling you to go out there and tell them your exact story and what you've seen, but when these kids, especially the kids coming up, see that someone is actually wanting to listen to them and then can relate to them, they tend to open up a little bit more, and they'll look to wanting to change and be consistent. Consistency plays a key part. Don't say you're going to do something and be a part of something with them and want to help them, and then they don't hear nothing from you for a whole month, because a lot of it, and again, this is me speaking from my own and from what I've seen, a lot of it is these kids are missing love, and they want the love, they want that attention, what they weren't getting in the home, or what the lack they seen of in the home. They might have got love of being sheltered or protected, but they witnessed, like the parents fighting, physical abuse, whatever, even verbal. That right there lasts longer. You hear your mom being called different names, you tend to grow up, and next thing you know, you're calling your girlfriend and your wife these names, you know.
Mhm.
So just being consistent. If you're gonna, I love the fact that that's what you're gonna be doing, and that you even took the time to ask something like that, because that's what really matters. People don't do that. They won't
Mhm.
ask. They won't care, and they'll just say, "Well, I have a job to do. I'm gonna enforce the law, and your life doesn't matter. You made the wrong choice. Well, I'm gonna take care of it and I'm gonna lock you up." No, that's not how it works. Build a relationship, and trust me, things can change.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more people that would like to ask Melvin more questions?
It's Shannon again. I asked it in the chat. I just wanted to find out, do you have like a volunteer? Like, can people volunteer in your organization?
Yeah, definitely. So since starting Gangsters Gone Godly in 2018, again, it started very locally. It started as just a two-man crew, basically, and it's turned into something national. So we have people from all different, all over the country, that help me with different outreaches, and I connect with them. I do sort of like a mentoring slash ministry with them. Find out about the community. I'll take trips to wherever they're at, see what their community is about, and then we work hand in hand. And then volunteering, I take on interns just to, help with events, things like that. And I don't turn anyone away, because this is not a one-man job. I can give my testimony, I can tell my story all day long, but I actually have to put the work in as well. And like I tell everybody, Violent was not the only city that I destroyed. I was all over the place, from, the Midwest, down south, everywhere. And I've been blessed to be given an opportunity to go to these other cities and, again, try and bring life back to cities I once helped kill. So you could always go to my websites. I'm over all social media. I mean, just Google my Gangsters Gone Godly. The links are all in there, and I'm willing. My I don't have my phone number is completely wide open to everybody. It's all over Google. I don't have anything private about my life. Literally, my whole life used to be private. I literally lived in two different worlds. But today, no. You Google me, you're gonna get address, phone number, everything.
Passwords.
Yeah, nah, maybe.
Okay. Does anybody else in our audience have any questions? I'm sure Melvin wants to spend time with his family. I don't want to take up too much time. Any more questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Melvin, so much for coming on. It was such an honor. I will be keeping in contact with you. I think we can partner on many projects, especially with our Harcum program, with our partnership site and Bryn Mawr campus. Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. I mean, this was an opportunity of a lifetime. I truly appreciate it. You guys were great. Definitely, when Nija asked me, I was super excited to do this. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone on here just for taking the time out, on a Friday night to
Yeah.
listen to a Gangster Gone Godly.
This is much better than any Netflix I've watched during the pandemic. So thank
Better
you
than the
so
Tiger
much.
Thank
King?
you.
Yeah, even the Tiger King, and I even teach about that. Even the Tiger
Watch
King.
that. Never watch it.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Definitely, like I said, if anything is, and I say this to you guys with complete confidence, anything is needed at all, and it's not just to be speaking. If you know somebody, if you somebody close to you, someone that you run into or whatever, you need me for anything at all, feel free to contact me either through Niaja, like I said, you can Google me, and I'll be more than happy. It says it on my website. I'm available 24 hours a day for any type of outreach, any type of, anything, prayer, anything.
Thank you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. All right. Have a good night. Thank you guys.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good
Thank you.
night.